Yo, this your boy Peyton Tomlin, man. And today the host is Dr. Tracy Washington. How you doing today, Dr. Tracy Washington?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing well on this MLK birthday celebration
Absolutely.
day.
Absolutely.
What you do today to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King?
You know, for myself, I actually posted on my website. I did a tribute to him. I also did a little reading because that's one of my pastimes, one of my passions. So did some more research on him and all of the contributions and sacrifices he made for us, and him giving the ultimate sacrifice of his life as well too, in the pursuit of our freedoms here in this nation. So, and then I believe, every day is, like they say, Black History Month. So I stay on a constant level of reading and researching, but definitely with Dr. King, one of our great ancestors.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I know for me, I think, and I know there's some controversy around this topic, but I think I think people understand what they're saying. I think we almost have to get rid of Black History Month because it's Black history all the time.
Mhm.
And I think, we have to normalize the addition of the Black contribution to this country instead of just narrowing it down to a month where people actually think about it. Now, I know that's, people have their opinions on that, and that's cool. But whatever, I think we all agree that the message of the contributions have to be out
Absolutely. I have my own opinions about that. We could have a whole segment on my thoughts.
there.
History Month is important because it's one of the months, the 28 days they do give us that we are recognized. And as you notice, if you look in, the newspaper, they're forever trying to take out Black history in our school books. They're doing everything that they can to mitigate the facts. So I think just with the fact that we have those 28 days, even though should be 365, I got it. But I think that that's why it's still important that we do celebrate our month, celebrate Juneteenth, and then teach Black history in our homes daily. We can't leave it up to our school systems and politicians to do anything in regards to, and expect them to do anything in regards to our history. They have not done so far, but with the advent of this new invention called the internet and Google, we can find a lot of information, even if we don't know ourselves, research it. But like I say, I could spend 3 hours
Yeah,
on
not.
that. But
Hey, you know what? We'll bring you back. I'll bring you back on here, and we'll have that conversation, man. Because
absolutely,
you know
absolutely,
this podcast is called Real Leadership Podcast, and what it is I want real leadership conversations, and that just in the business world, right? But in life, in every area where leaders have to play a part somewhere, we have to have those conversations, and I think create new leaders to understand that.
absolutely.
So yeah, and that's definitely part of it. Black leaders, we got to have them. We need them, and they need to be able to focus on the right things. So I definitely agree with that, man. But like you said, we'll do that later. Today we're here on a different topic,
Yep.
which is just you know I know you, and before I get you to explain your background and the things that you have accomplished and the things that you've done, the reason that I definitely brought you on here is because I know you work in the mental health area for over 25 years or about 25 years. So,
Hmm.
and so you're an expert, right? So like they say, anything you do for more than 10,000 hours, you want to be an expert, you got to do it for over 10,000 hours, right? That's
That's what
you.
they say. That's what they say.
So that makes you an expert in this field.
Okay.
Uh, but before we get going down that path, man, please introduce yourself to the viewers or to the listeners, and let them know who they're hearing from.
Absolutely. And again, thank you, man, for inviting me to for this important topic about leadership, first and foremost. And good evening to all of your listeners. My name is Tracy Washington, Dr. Tracy Washington. Originally from Albany, Georgia. Lived there 18 years of my early life. As soon as I graduated high school, joined the United States Air Force, and I stayed there for 25 years. Just like Peyton said, I mostly did my career as a mental health technician. So all aspects of mental health that I worked in for over half of my career. Then I moved As I moved up in rank, then I moved into more of the leadership aspect, supervision. My last job was chief of medical enlisted force for Air Force Combat Command. Had about 13 hospitals and about 9,000 medical specialists, doctors, nurses, technicians, you name it, under my purview. Retired as the chief master sergeant in 2018. Jumped into the private sector just for a little bit, for about a year to the date, actually. It wasn't for me. Once I got out, it was a little different. And I figured since I retired from the military, things were going okay with that. So I decided to pursue my own passions, which was to support and uplift our Black communities across the world. So therefore, I founded the United Crowns Group. The United Crowns Group consists of my nonprofit, which is the United Crowns Foundation. We also have the United Crowns Collection, which is a clothing line that we own. And also we have a design element to the United Crowns Group. Got my doctorate in 2013, did that in business management or business administration with a focus in management. In my latest projects, I've actually helped co-author a book for the Department of Social Work at USC. It's called The Reality of Diversity, Gender, and Skin Color from the Living Room to the Classroom. And also just working with my nonprofit, we're doing a lot of work over in Haiti. So that's just a little bit about myself. Don't want to go too in depth, but that's just a little overview of who I am and what I'm doing.
Hey man, listen, that is a great resume. And it's amazing because what are you, 47?
Yeah, 47, about on the verge of 48, but yeah, who's counting?
Yeah, right. So I mean, you're still young, and look at that, all the things you've already accomplished, and how you're definitely putting back into our youth and developing the next generation of leaders and the things that they should follow. And man, you're just a great role model.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that.
And that's definitely why I wanted to get you on here. And the reason that I formulated this podcast, man, is because kind of like, my background, same thing, military, 21 years.
Yep.
And leadership roles. And then as I came out, I went into the private sector as well, dealing with government contracts and so forth. Excuse me. And I just see a lack of leadership, and no one is trying to develop leaders. It's like they expect them to pop out the womb and just be good leaders, or because they're in certain positions, they should already know how to be leaders. And as the great John Maxwell always says, man, no one wins that leadership.
That's right.
We're always learning, we're always developing, and we're always going.
Totally.
And in our community, definitely in the Black community, I don't think topics like this are taught enough to develop our youth, our young adults, and even some of our older adults. And I think this could be a great platform where they can come and learn certain tips, topics, and things to help them in their careers and to move forward, or
Absolutely.
even ambition, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the big topics right now is mental health. And mental health is huge, and you see it all over the place. We just had, and forgive me for not remembering his name completely, but the DJ who was DJing for Ellen.
Yeah, Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch, the young man who took his life. And it looks like he had everything, right?
Yep.
He always looked happy. He was always dancing. He was always in good spirits from all accounts, smiles. But of course, once everyone's away from you, you have to deal with your own demons at that point.
Absolutely.
And I know as a leader myself, one of the problems that I always had was dealing with my own problems, but then taking on all the other problems from the people that I had under my leadership. And I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to handle that. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, to help people who are going to be in those situations or who are in those situations now. Right?
Absolutely.
And I guess I think, I have some questions here. I'm not going to act like I'm a, journalist for real, right?
Absolutely. Journalist.
So, I wrote them down on the notebook, right? And and then I'll just ask you the first question that I have is, man, I guess we'll bring it back just a little bit. What's your thought on leadership overall, and why you think good, effective leadership is important?
You hear the word leadership a lot, but the word itself is such a broad topic. There's different elements, there are different styles of leadership, there's different way to groom different leaders. But for me, just to simplify it as best I can, when I think of a leader, I think of someone who understands their mission and vision, whether that be in business, whether that be personal life, whether that be whatever. But they understand that, and the decisions that they make are based off of that purpose, that mission, and that vision. And I also think that a leader understands that his team does not work, his or her team does not work for them, they work with them. And they always, a true leader, when even they make decisions, because when you're in a leadership position, you're not going to make choices that people agree with all the time. You're not going to please everybody. But what they try to do is try to incorporate their teammates' needs, plus driving their organization, their family, their mission and vision to that next level. And that takes a certain skill to be able to do that. Also, a leader is willing to get down and dirty, to do the things that maybe they did at a certain level of their life, their career, or whatever, and maybe have to go back down to that level with other people to teach them. And also, finally, in my opinion, a good leader also develops their replacements as they're going along. Because I think, as I went through my military career, my civilian career, as I'm going through now, I think a lot of people think, they have these great organizations, these great plans, these great visions, but the key fact is we're not going to be here forever. And the true leader actually is training their replacement as they're going along, giving that information, being able to share what they know with the people that they work with. It's no secret. It shouldn't be anything like that. And I think those are key elements in my mind when I first think of leadership.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I agree with you 100%. As I'm progressing into my coaching career, coaching leaders and so forth, that's definitely a topic. The succession plan, right?
Yep.
You're not creating followers, you're creating leaders.
Absolutely.
And if you don't do so, then that's how your company will eventually burn out and die. But that's how, if you're not teaching your family how your children to be leaders as well from a family dynamic, that's how your family gets lost through generations.
And then your visions and your vision and mission will get lost in that shuffle as well too. And then and I think you bring up some good points. When you talk about leadership, when you talk about whether it be business, whether it be in your family, another key element is making those hard decisions. And what I found too is a lot of so-called leaders or managers aren't able to make those hard choices. They want to be the person that everybody likes, but what they don't fully understand is when you don't make those decisions, you don't support the people to help them make that decision or that mission come true, you're only going to cause dissension in the organization, in the family, or whatever. It's the same dynamics, just different people, but the same dynamics. And I truly and professionally and personally believe when, even if people don't like the decision, if you're able to make a sound decision, they understand why you made the decision, and you give them the tools and the knowledge to be able to execute that decision, then they're going to respect you more and work harder to make sure they're driving toward that direction.
Oh yeah, you nailed it, man. I swear, I'd rather follow someone who's confident and we're going down the wrong path. And once he or she recognize that, they have the courage and the humility to say, hey, maybe this decision wasn't the best one, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to turn around. But that is so much better than an undecisive leader. keeping people on the, on the edge of their seats, right? Trying to figure out what the direction or the answer is going to be in order
Mm,
for us to move forward. And you're right. Once, and I had a leader like that, man. Unfortunately, I had a commander in one of my units who would never make a decision.
It was
Everything.
frustrating, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's so frustrating. And then what happens is you start getting other people making decisions. So like like you were saying, it starts to break apart because now you're getting people who shouldn't be making decisions trying to make decisions because there's no one else making a decision. Uh, and then, like you said, that goes against the mission, the vision, the family vision, the dynamics. It breaks down a whole lot of different categories that you mentioned. Man, that's definitely a great point. Um, yeah, man. So I'm gonna move to this next question. Right.
Okay.
All right. So, as a leader, how did you deal with stress? And let me unpack that just a little bit more.
Okay.
That seems a little general, but I know as a leader, and I'll speak for me personally, right? As a leader, I mean, hundreds of people under me, right? I didn't have 9,013 hospitals, but I had my share of people that I was responsible for and had to come
Hmm.
talk to me. And it gets into the hundreds. And if you talk over a career, of course, the number goes up, right?
Yep.
But you take their problems on. So I
Hmm.
remember, when I have a young airman and her mother passes away, I bring that home with me.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out the best I can do to support her. Meanwhile, I still have my own problems that I have to deal with. How do I, get my kids through this concept, or how do I deal with this emotional element that I'm facing? And after a while, man, I just felt like I had a lot on my shoulders. So for a person who might feel like that, for a person who is in a position today and they're like, man, I have all this stuff. Uh, what tips or advice or how would you uh tell them best way to deal with that situation?
Well, I could tell you the textbook answer right now. You know, you find a hobby and find someone to talk to, and those things are great. Don't get me wrong, but I can tell you, I can speak about my journey as dealing with stress, even working in mental health, because I is the difference between guiding somebody else through treatment and telling them kind of A, B, and C, guiding them what they need to do, and then applying those same things to yourself. And that's probably what a lot of the leaders, probably a lot of your listeners, and kind of what you're talking about have went through. Because when I was in the military, you know, younger in my career, it was a little easier to deal with that stress. You might have had one or two people that you supervise and things like that, and it wasn't that hard. But as I moved up in rank, moved up in positions, and it's being say, a superintendent of a hospital, or one of the directors of a hospital, or of several hospitals, the stress level kind of goes sky high because you got a lot of people depending on you, your decisions, and your decisions affect lives. You know, and I struggle with that part. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. I struggled with that for a while of dealing with that stress. Did I meet objectives? Absolutely. Did I progress in my career? Absolutely. Did I do great things for the hospitals and things such as that? Absolutely. But one thing that I didn't do was, again, like you said, take care of myself. And then what I did was direct opposite of what you're supposed to do. What I did was turn to drinking, right? And we've talked about that before,
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and I would tell all your listeners, a lot of people say, "Oh, I had a hard day at work. I got to get a drink." That's not what you need, because alcohol is only going to pacify it for a little bit, and then it's just the problems are still going to be there, and then you got to deal with it with a hangover. You know what I'm saying? So so I went through those struggles. I've been sober now for 6 years, but
Oh man, good stuff.
what I did learn throughout those trials and tribulations with dealing with stress is it's okay not to be okay. It's okay. Stress is normal. Stress is what gets us moving. It gets us to meet deadlines. But when it becomes a problem is when that stress starts to affect the way you perform. Once that starts to happen, I would suggest to anybody, first of all, we all have what's called in the military called leave, and we have another thing on the civilian side called PTO, right? I know so many people that never take time off. They got, I got 79 days. I got this amount of PTO. Take time off for yourself. Take time off for your family. I don't care if it's just taking a few days off or attached to a weekend to just hang around the house, watch TV, vent, whatever you need to do just to decompress. I would also say you need to work on the elements that make you a whole person as well too, to deal with that stress. That's mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, and also financial. All right. So those 5 pillars really will help you to deal with the stressors that you have at work. And people say, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is just imagine if those 4 pillars, those 4 are the tires of your car, and the 5th one is the motor, right?
Yeah.
Say for instance, one tire goes low. Oh yeah, you probably could still be moving along. You got that stress, but you're making it through. But if 3 of those tires go flat, the motor's clanking, that car probably not gonna move for too long. So that's why it's so important that as a leader, you balance out all those things and then really try to do something simple, like simple things daily to work on your mental, your physical, your spiritual, your emotional, and your financial health. Because if you can do that, you really make yourself a better leader. You're going to set the example for your people, your family, and also save yourself a lot of stress. Next thing I would suggest with dealing with stress, let's say for instance, because that's easy for me to say, and that's a journey that people need to go on. But if you feel as though that you're getting stressed and you're bringing it home, and what I know in my mental health career is usually when people are stressed at work, they take it out on the people they love at home. And that's a huge problem. So now you got a problem at home, you got a problem at work. I would say seek professional help as well too. It's so, there's a lot of programs in our military system and also in the private sector, in the civilian world, where most jobs will offer some type of mental health counseling or coaching or something to talk about these issues and help you work through them. As I go around and I speak in South Carolina, up in Baltimore, Atlanta, you hear a lot of people, especially in African-American culture, that really don't, there's a big stigma about mental health, but there's a big stigma, I believe, across all cultures and races, to be honest with you, but especially in the Black culture. But I think it's slowly but surely changing, but it's definitely one of those options. I would say as a leader, you can't pour into somebody else's cup if your cup is empty. Yeah. You can't be an effective leader if those 5 pillars that I talked about, if you're lagging in one or several of those pillars, because that building is going to crumble after a while. And another aspect too is for leaders, I say, when you're dealing with stress, you have to come to the understanding that you cannot control everything. You cannot control everybody, and you're not the world's problem solver. Yes, you can guide people, you can, come up with different things, but there are going to be certain things within your business, your life, your career that you're not going to be able to control. And you're going to have to sometimes be able to accept that and seek out someone within your organization, within your family, within your personal life that maybe can assist you with that. And that's okay. Because a lot of leaders I found as I talk to people again across the nation, a lot of leaders believe that they have to be perfect. They have to have all the answers, but that's the furthest from the truth. A good leader surrounds themselves with good people and let those good people bring their gifts to that organization, to that family, to that personal relationship that's going to help everybody move forward. And when you're a good leader, you're going to cultivate and encourage and inspire those people to do the things that they do. And that's going to help alleviate a lot of stress off of you when you empower your people to use their gifts to further that mission, that vision, or that life's purpose.
Man,
I know that might have been a long answer to a short
man,
question, but
you are dropping jewels, man. I'm over trying to keep up and take these notes. You know what I mean? For the next time I got a coaching session or I'm out here training the youth, man. Man, you touched on so much. And, seek help. Take time off for yourself. And,
absolutely.
You're not the world's problem solver. That right there is huge, man, because I think a lot of people take on responsibilities. And I'll speak for myself. That's not my responsibility.
Yep.
I find myself sometimes interjecting myself into situations that doesn't even concern me. I would get stressed. I I would get stressed over things I see on television,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Yep.
it will bother me for hours, and it has nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
Right? On top of everything else, and then take care of yourself first. Now that's also huge. I know one of the things that I talk about is that kind of like when you get onto an airplane, right? They tell you when turbulence happen, put that oxygen mask on yourself first,
and then put it on somebody
then
else.
put it on somebody else, right? And that's the same concept that I use for life. I got to make myself right before I can even try to deal with help anybody else. And then delegation, man. That is so huge for leaders to be able to do and understand. You don't need to be the hoarder of everything that's done. And as you delegate, man, you are so right, man. That takes a lot of pressure off of your shoulders and stress off of you because you have good people that you've coached up who are ready to take on that responsibility.
And then again, that adds back to what I was saying of grooming those next leaders. In any organization or any, family or personal business dealings, sometimes we feel as though we're that resident expert. We're the ones that know, and they're too young. They've only been here, like, say, 6 months or a year. You would be surprised at the gifts people bring to an organization. And if you could just trust them, train them, of course, but then let them go, their new, fresh minds, ideas, and things can bring so much to your organization, and it gives them more buy-in to the mission because they know their importance. When I was doing research on one of the projects I was doing, it was talking about what motivates employees. And a lot of people, when they answered the survey or, thought about what would be the answer, a lot of people say, well, money, promotions, and praises and things like that. But that wasn't really what motivated a lot of employees. Most employees during this study said that what motivated them was feeling valued in an organization. Absolutely. It wasn't even about the money. It wasn't about that next promotion, but it's feeling valued and feeling that what they were doing was important to their organization's mission. And when you think about that, because I always think, well, I don't know about that one, but when you think about it, especially when I was in the military, I think that was the key thing. I never really heard people talk about, the paycheck is so low. What I heard was, my supervisor doesn't listen. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah. I'm only this rank or I'm only that rank, so I'm not important. But you are. You wouldn't be here if you were not. But I think a good leader helps every member of their organization understand their importance. They make them feel valued, and they make sure that that person understands how whatever they do fits in to the overall success of that organization. Yeah, and if you can do that, you're going to be a light years ahead of a lot of Fortune 500 companies out there.
Yeah, man, I agree with you 100%. One of the benefits of being in an operational unit when I was in the military is that our mission and our vision was set, and we knew how we played a part for what we were doing.
Hmm.
right? Because it's very simple. It was the removal of enemy something,
Hmm.
right? And we still had our issues, but I think there was a lot of benefit because like we were just touching on, we knew our part that we played in order to have that. But most things in this world, that's a one percenter, I think.
Hmm.
Like most people in companies, they don't have that level of end goal of what the company is targeting. So when you're sitting out here, you're right. If I'm a graphic designer, I'm like, okay, I know I'm graphic designing,
Hmm.
but like, where do I fit in the goal of this? Like, where's this company going?
Absolutely.
Gonna need me in 3 years, or there's not a lot of that. What's the word I'm looking for? Value in
Hmm.
yourself when you leave work because you don't know what you really accomplished.
Hmm.
And you're right. Leaders have to paint that picture and show the reason we hired you here is because here's the vision. This is where we're trying to go to, and this is where you play your part in us doing that. And you're 100% right. Man, you're 100% right on
And I think, as we look back, and I think one thing now, of course, the military has its aches. I did 25 years.
that.
It wasn't all perfect, but
That's
it was
another. That's another
good.
podcast.
Yeah, but one thing that they did, I think, was extremely well that a lot of organizations and a lot of families and personal relationships could do and do better. What they did great was from the day you walk into any military branch, whether it be the Air Force, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, one of the first things you're going to learn is that service mission and its core values. You're going to memorize those. They're written on, like, any installation you go to, they're going to be written on the buildings. You're going to see them on poles. You're going to see them in like letterheads, all of that stuff. Why? Because you need to understand simply what your mission is and what your values are. And then I think, to me, that from day one grooms people to be the next leader. And then simplify that mission, whether it be for yourself, whether it be for your business or whatever. I've worked in organizations where they have these long, drawn out statements. It's like like, who's going to remember that? But when I think about the Air Force, when they now in the AFIs, that's like the Air Force instruction and things like that, you're going to see maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, but everybody knows the Air Force mission is to fly, fight, and win.
Yep.
Real simple: fly, fight, win. And the 3 core values, we all know those. We can repeat them.
Yep.
Again, grooming those leaders to take your place from day one. That should be key for any good leader, is empowering your people, training them, and grooming them to be those next leaders in the organization.
Yeah, that is definitely, when I get into like I said, the coaching and consulting, those are the areas. I take a lot of the structure from the military and bring it into these organizations because they don't understand that.
Mhm.
They just grew up differently, uh, where they didn't even, they put all the stuff out there, but they also don't target as much as they probably should, right?
Mhm.
And conduct business solely under that. If what you're doing doesn't fall under one of these three, then
Mhm.
why are you doing
Mhm.
it? Right. So
That's right. But you have newer companies like Google. You have a lot of companies that are moving to that model. If it doesn't fit into this vision, mission, or our values as a company, we're not doing it.
yeah,
So if you can't explain how it fits into that, we're just not going to do it.
why are we doing
Absolutely.
it?
So,
Absolutely.
yep.
And then just one more question for you, man. Because as leaders, you're not a leader unless you got somebody following you, right?
Yep.
As John Maxwell said, if you're walking down the road and no one's following you, you're just taking a stroll.
Absolutely.
So uh, we also have to be cognizant of our uh, employees or subordinates or other peers or teammates of their mental health as well, because as we stated, a lot of people can hide their issues,
Mhm.
right? They have some of them became very good playing the part, but I believe that there's always signs,
Mhm.
right? Some signs are more global than, uh,
Yep, 9 times out of 10, you'll see the signs. 9 times out of 10, not all the time, but most of the time, there should be some type of signs going on.
yeah, and sometimes it's slight, but I think as a leader, that's why it's so important for you to engage with your people,
Yes,
right?
on
And
and
just
not just on a work level. And I know probably some of your listeners are not in the military, working civilian. So it's not saying that your supervisor or should be intrusive into your personal life, but as a leader, you should know some of the basic things about your people, but outside of the work environment as well too.
yeah,
Do they have kids, or are they married? Different things such as that. I know a lot of organizations they may, for birthdays of that month, they may, do certain things, but just knowing a little bit more about them and looking at their daily habits, how they interact on a daily basis, how they come in and say good morning every day. And if something changes, is addressing that,
yep,
and then ask again. Being a leader says you have to ask, and like I said, make the hard decisions and also have the hard conversations as well too. So many times people believe that, well, if I talk about suicide or then the person's going to do it. No, that's not the case. That it doesn't work like that. But what we do know through studies and through research is, if you ask a person point blank, you now not all the time, but a lot of times you say, hey, are you thinking about harming yourself? Or I see you down. Work performance is shifting a little bit. Are you thinking about hurting yourself, killing yourself, or hurting somebody else? People will tell you
yeah,
that, hey, sir, ma'am, I have been feeling down a little bit lately, and I've had, may have some thoughts. But then understanding as a leader, what do you do after a person says that?
yeah,
And asking those questions, because a lot of times people say, well, I shoulda, coulda, and I saw this and I saw that, but they never really addressed it with the person. And that's part of knowing your resources, whether you be a mom, dad, father, brother, sister, supervisor, or CEO, or whatever. Understanding what help is available in your community for that person, and getting them to that help. Not just, saying, oh, well, here's a little pamphlet and you can just call this number, but, sitting there, and maybe having them called and supporting them. If it's your family member, going with them to the appointment. You won't be able to go behind the doors with the doc, but, just supporting that person. I think that goes a long way as a leader. And then following up. Just don't ask the question, give them the pamphlet or the help, but following back up with that person later on just to see how they're doing. That's, to me, that's not only being a good leader, that's being a good human, to be able to do that.
yeah, man. And it it is that is so huge, man. Because I remember, you take me back to when I was in the military, and probably just like you, I had to deal with. I had at least, I think, 4 incidences throughout my career where I had to deal with people who were threatening to kill themselves,
Yes.
or people who tried to kill themselves,
Hmm.
or the early signs of just, when you walk by someone, you're like, hey, how are you doing?
Hmm.
Military, sometimes they'll tell you, right? I was blessed, and I say blessed because I ran across a young airman one day, uh, and I just asked her how was she doing, and that how are you doing has led to a 3-hour conversation,
Hmm.
which then led to getting her some help because she was in a place that people didn't understand where she was at. She wasn't even my airman. She
That's
was
right.
for a different organization, but that's what we're supposed to do. Like you said, it's about it's the human thing to do. And I think sometimes, since I've been out of the military, it seems like a lot of people don't want to get involved. Kind of like you're saying, they feel like they're being intrusive in people's lives.
Hmm.
But because we understand how serious this mental element is, how serious the stress element, the anxiety element. I think we have to get involved a little bit more. We have to intervene a little bit more, and we got to help these people because there's always a tomorrow. And just because we're in these dark places, especially as leaders, man, we take on so much. And I
Absolutely.
want to just focus on leaders. I know other people take on so much, but that's what this podcast is about, right? It's about the leadership element of it. And all the stuff that you take on, all the stuff you have to hear, all the things, especially when you're a good leader, people come to you constantly. Because I
Yeah,
know just like you, I get people who still reach out to me,
absolutely. Yep.
right, for advice or for all of this. Because when you're good leaders, that's what people do, man. And to deal with that constantly and deal with your own problems constantly and keep moving constantly, you
And
have to get your four pillars in line.
absolutely. And again, like you say, having those, and it's actually 5 pillars with the
Five
financial
pillars,
part,
my mistake.
because like, you know, taking care of yourself. And as being leaders, I see a lot of times we give to others, we give, but we never really take time to give to ourselves. And that's a huge mistake. You have to carve out, it's 24 hours in a day. All right.
Mhm.
We make time for things that are important. Like when somebody says they're too busy, I don't care what your job is. That's a lie. You can make time for what you want, especially for the average person, that, maybe works 9 to 5, even if you have kids, go to school or whatever. There's times where you can, take a moment, even if it's 10, 15 minutes to say meditate, to read before you go to bed, do some relaxation exercises or whatever you do. Maybe take a walk with the kids or the dog or your husband to get out, get that exercise, to take a few minutes to look over your financial matters, to make sure things are working, or the goals that you have for yourself, you're striving towards, or what have you. But just simple things you can do on a daily basis to really make sure you're honing in on those pillars and making that a priority, because I know a lot of things, especially like say with social media, people say, well, I don't have time, but you can sit on social media and scroll for 45 minutes and some for 3-4 hours on TikTok and Facebook, or watch a 3-hour football game. So you do have time for yourself. It's about what you want to do. And I can't stress that enough to really, again, it doesn't have to be some long drawn out things where you have 5 pillars. I need to do an hour per one. Even if you can only do maybe one a day, but just make sure that you're kind of touching and hitting those 5 pillars throughout the 5 days of the week that you're working, or on the weekend when you have more time. Yeah. But and then too, when we talk about suicide and those signs, and when you look at the DJ and the dancer Twitch, and you look at Bourdain, you look at Robin Williams, a lot of these people, when they were on TV or social media, it was always laughing. They were rich, they were this, they were that, but those things mean nothing. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people say, well, they're rich, they're famous, they're happy, but sometimes that's a show, and that's what they want you to see. Again, behind those closed doors, we don't know what they were like with their spouses, friends, or whoever who may have seen the other side of them, but said nothing. Again, I want to reiterate to all your listeners as well, too, that even if you see the signs and you picked up on it, it may seem happy on the outside, but you picked up there's some differences and you ask them. At the end of the day, the ultimate choice, if a person commits suicide, that's a personal choice. It's nothing, because a lot of people some people feel guilt that they tried to get them help, they tried to do this, they tried to do that. And again, we talked about that in the beginning, where you take on that. And that's something that can be hard for an organization, especially for a family, where you tried, but that person, for whatever reason, did not come through and could not get out of the depths of depression, the depths of suicidal thoughts. that becomes a personal choice. And we have to be careful of not taking that blame on ourselves too, because that can also lead to problems with ourselves, taking on that huge burden of what somebody did as a personal choice and taking that on as we could have stopped or could have done something different.
Yeah, and that goes back to you saying, like, we're not the world's problem solver.
Yep.
We definitely,
and that's easier said than done. And trust me, I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
but
100.
But it's something we have to keep in mind as well too, as being leaders, especially if you're a leader. And if you're a leader long enough over huge organizations, these are going to be some things that you come across sooner or later.
Absolutely. Yep. And you got to always make sure that you're able to get out of the dark spaces.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we all get there. We all know that there's dark spaces there, but with the right tools and the right understanding, you can find your way out of those places.
Absolutely. And again, I'm glad you said that too, because we all have, or most of us, I'm not going to be all inclusive because somebody's going to say, not me.
I'm going to get 19 messages and go viral about like, not me,
many people, not necessarily with the suicidal thoughts, again, not with suicidal thoughts or whatever, but we have those lows in life that, when things are not going right, you may have a death in the family, a lot of financial burdens and things like that. It's okay. That's normal to feel that way. Yeah. And because, a lot of people think that, well, it's not normal to feel sad. It's not normal to feel hurt, for extended periods of time. It is. I mean, if you lose somebody, you lose your career, you lose your job, you have financial problems, your kids are maybe in legal troubles and things like that. That's normal to feel that way. But it's not normal to not ask for help or to seek a way out of that feeling.
That's a huge point that you just put there, because you're 100% accurate. People do believe that they should always be happy all the time.
Yep.
And then I'm a little bit sad.
That's not life. That's not life. Being happy all the time, 100% of the time. That's not life.
Not at all, man.
Yep.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, man, it's our time is definitely getting a little bit short here, but I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you, brother.
I would definitely want to get you back on, because one of the things that you mentioned are the 5 pillars, and I think I think it's fair to dive into those 5 pillars a little bit more at a different time.
Yep, we definitely do. I would love to come back and do that with you.
Yeah, and I think that would be good for the people. That's a good stepping stone for people who heard this one to now understand what those 5 pillars are. So what I can do, we'll make that like a part 2.
Absolutely. This one. And can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Let's do a part 3 with the Black history. So hey, I didn't forget about that.
Hey, man,
that's one of my passions. So
I know that is your thing, man, and I definitely want to get you on here. It won't be a part 3. We'll leave it because we'll leave that as its own entity.
Okay, good deal.
We'll start part 1 with that one, because man, that might go a couple of parts.
Okay.
As we move down and we get into those conversations, and but just to close out this here, man, I'll tell you, I think this is such a huge topic. I like normalizing it. I want people to feel, especially people. I want all people to understand that it's okay to not be okay.
You're absolutely correct.
As you mentioned earlier. And I know personally, I know in our community, that's a huge thing.
Yep.
That is huge for us in our community. And we suffer from a lot of it. And when we're not okay, I know we do a lot of different things. Sometimes it's take our life. Sometimes we take other people's lives.
Yep. Drugs, alcohol, domestic abuse, a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I know that goes across the board, but I'm not intelligent enough to speak about it across the board. But I am intelligent enough to speak about it in my community, because I lived it, I've seen it for the past 47 years I've been. So I just don't want anyone to think that I'm just disregarding everyone else.
Yes.
But I can't
it goes across the board
about everybody else.
Yep. Goes across the board.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna give you the last word. So where can we find you? Where can people look you up? Where can they grab that book that you co-authored on? And
The
floor is
best
yours with anything you want to say, man.
the best way to contact me or to look up and see what I'm doing, especially with my nonprofit, which is my pride and joy and our flagship of the United Crowns Group, simply go to United Crowns with an S, United Crowns Foundation, one word, .org. United Crowns Foundation.org. On that site, you can see what we're doing over in Haiti. You can see what we're doing with kids in the Baltimore area, in South Carolina, all the great things we're doing for African-American communities in the United States and abroad. Again, man, just thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience and have this great conversation with you. We need good leaders in all aspects of life. And leaders, to me, my own professional opinion, are not born, but they are made. And what I mean by made is they are groomed, they have mentors, they have people in their lives that show them the way and give them opportunities and also push them out of their comfort zones.
Yes.
And, being in that comfort zone, doing the same things that you're doing is going to get you the same results. But, it's so important that and I'm a parent, I have 3 children. So, I always look for ways to push my children to be better leaders in their family, their communities, their churches, their schools, whatever. And I encourage y'all to do the same and just, empower the people who work with you, your teammates, your family, and try new things as a leader,
Man.
So that's all I got for you tonight, man.
Hey, man, that's all you had to give, brother. I appreciate it all. They will see the United Crown Foundation and, of course, Turn Them Loose Corporation working together down the road.
Absolutely.
It's a big family, man. It takes a village, and you got to get more and more good people in your village, man. So thank you for being in my village.
You're
Or
welcome,
in
sir.
our village.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have for everybody. Once again, if you like this episode, please subscribe to wherever platform you're listening to it on. Please look up Dr. Tracy Washington and subscribe to his things and support his efforts as well. We're out here trying to make a difference. And that's how it goes, man. Real leaders make the world go round. So thank you all. God bless. Have a good night. Find the record button, man. I'll stop it.
Should be down at the bottom.
I got it.